Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Agenda. This morning we woke up to news of a gang of suspected armed robbers attacking the Kwabena District Police Headquarters, which houses the Kwabena Police Station. One officer on duty, we're told, was killed in the process, and 7 inmates believed to be armed robbers, robbery suspects, were freed. The police has launched a manhunt for the 7 escapees whose identities and nationalities have been published. We have photos already circulating of them by the police service. This comes a few days, I must emphasize, after armed herdsmen ambushed a police military team tasked to enforce a court order in Agugua-Santiachim and the Ashanti region. 2 law enforcement agents were killed. Some days back also, the police arrested some men who had in their possession grenades, and linkages were established with one of them to ISIS in Libya. While these incidents might not be directly interconnected to the siege at the Intercontinental Hotel in Kabul, Afghanistan, where armed men carrying grenades moved from floor to floor, killing 6 people, we surely cannot overlook the trends of global insecurity. So what is emboldening criminal elements in Ghana to mount direct attacks and in some instances ambushing state-assigned security agents? Should we or should we not be worried with the trend locally where state security assignees are becoming targets for gangs and organized criminals? Are there indeed linkages between the proliferation of arms and the low-hanging threat posed by political vigilante groups? I'm Stephen Enti. This is Agenda, and this late afternoon we're not only going to set the agenda, but we're going to probe the linkages that define that agenda. Stay with us and join the discussion on our Facebook page at TV3GH. Right, welcome to Agenda, and this afternoon I have my guests in the studio. I'll take my time to introduce them. To my very extreme left, I have Mr. Adam Bona, who is a security analyst and chief executive officer of the CARS Group of Companies and Security Warehouse Limited. And then next to him, I have Mr. Emmanuel Coating. Mr. Emmanuel Coating is a I'll get to give you the counter-terrorism. I wanted to use counter-espionage, some of those. So he's the director of the African Center for Counter-Terrorism. He's here with us. And then we have Dr. Alidu Seidu, who is a senior lecturer at the Department of Political Science, University of Ghana, Legon. Gentlemen, it's great to have you. I want to start with you, Mr. Coating. I am worried, extremely worried, like I told you before, when armed groups or gangs or individuals have the effrontery to attack state-assigned security agents. That is extremely worried. If the police and military are being attacked, then you and I, we're really in trouble. Is this a good sign?
Well, thank you. In fact, it isn't a good sign at all. Even though more often than not, what we do is to calm our people not to panic and stuff like that. I think these incidences are becoming one too many, and it has become a very big concern for all of us, whether we take it from the perspective of security or managing the country as a whole,
or governance.
If you look at what is happening, for criminals to have the infantry to attack a state security institution like the police, where me and you will run to when we are under attack, it means that no one is safe. But let us not create that panic within the system. I think our security personnel are still on top of issues.
But when you say let us not create panic, should we not be afraid, or we shouldn't panic? I mean, because really, if the police who are supposed to enforce law and order are being attacked and one person shot dead whilst he's on duty, I should be afraid, really. Even if I'm not to panic, yeah, I will be afraid.
It is our mindset about security. Look at our police stations. How adequately are they equipped? Now they cannot even trace the alleged attackers that freed the suspect. I think if there are CCTVs around, at least they would have been able to get some images of these attackers. And I also feel that it's intelligence failure. Intelligence failure in the sense that in our part of the world, we feel that when there is an incident and arrest is made, that is the end of it. But that is rather the time you should be worried, because if it is a well-structured armed group like we have in this situation, they will look at all legitimate means. When I talk of legitimate on their part, because taking an arm in a way to attack a security institution like the police station cannot be a legitimate means, but on their part. And if you look at what is happening, intelligence have picked is that their ringleader was among one of those on remand. So they sort of did an operation to free the leader, because without the leader, their operations technically will run at ground. But what did our security agencies do in terms of intelligence gathering? You see, if we had intelligence on the ground, we could have even preempted this issue before it even had happened, because if you look at other jurisdictions, we have intelligence agents that are even part of the criminal gangs. They even pretend and go on operation whilst alerting security agencies about their mode of operandi and stuff like that. So I think on the Kwabena issue is two things. Our personnel are not adequately trained, and you can't blame them for that. It is the state. If we can find over 6 billion cedis to get a V8 for an MP, a minister, why can't we equip our state institutions to be able to deliver? To the extent that our police stations don't even have CCTV cameras around. The second aspect is about capacity. And if you look at logistics, the police officer that was shot dead, for Christ's sake, if he had a bulletproof vest, maybe he would have still been alive with us today. How much does a bulletproof vest cost?
Well, maybe there could be the surprise element. Maybe he was taking on unawares. But Ms. Adam Bona, is it only the problem is Mr. Kuting is raising the key thrust of what he's saying is that there was intelligence failure. There have been several intelligence failures in our security systems, which you've always been making references to. But is it only about intelligence failure?
Thank you very much, and once again, good afternoon to your cherished viewers, and then good afternoon to Hajia Zainab and Alaji Mambo in the Upper West region. I think...
Why are they special for greetings?
Those are my parents.
Okay.
Oh. What I have gathered over the years, that the rhetorics from our politicians still continues. And I don't know which camera is picking me, but I would want to speak directly to the powers that be. And my colleague here did say that we don't have to put people in the state of fear and panic. But are you aware, and Ghanaians, are we aware that the Ghana Police Service, the entire Ghana Police Service have just 6,000 AK-47s? Just 6,000 or less. Are we aware? And so what it means is that if there was any insurrection, if there were any attack or from people who want to commit this type of atrocities,
the police will not be in the
they
position
will not be
to
in the
curb it.
position to curb it. So I can tell you that it was technically impossible for the Kwabena police to deal with this issue looking at that time. And I'm saying that because around that ungodly hour, usually the patrol teams are not stationed at one place. They move around. And are you also aware, my friend did mention, my colleague did mention about, I keep saying, intelligence, set up in this country is next to zero. And so I hope that the media networks will pick it so that we can put our, I
actually don't
leaders.
agree that intelligence setup.
No, it is next to zero. And I'm telling you
though,
this. I'm telling you this, and you can check. You can check. I'm telling you this for a fact. The intelligence gathering or intelligence setup is next to zero. Listen.
Is it that bad?
It is that
with
bad.
With all the institutionalization of the Bureau of National Investigation.
What I'm saying
and
is
the
that
CID,
it
which
is
better resourced
you
than
better don't
all
even
the
mention
arms
the
of
CID, because I'm telling you that when you go to the Criminal Investigation Department of the Ghana Police Service. Are you aware that we have just about 20% of them certified to investigate crimes in this country? The rest of them are not properly trained. Who do you blame? You blame all of us. It's a collective responsibility. We have shared that responsibility. And so I'm sharing this on your network. And these are facts. You can check. These are facts. You cannot blame the police for, not being trained properly. How many months do they go on police training? How many months? The guy comes, he comes out of police training and never goes to police, and never goes for any refresher training till the day he goes on retirement or till the day he misbehaves and is fired. And so the truth is that some of these things have overly affected us as a nation. And so you have things that probably somebody who is not an investigator, an ordinary Ghanaian, can say, this thing, if you did it this way, did it that way. Yet somebody who is called the CID at a particular police station does not have a clue how to go about investigating that issue. And so that is where the problem is. And just like they mentioned, if you go to other jurisdictions, it is not that easy to walk into a police station. Usually there are few barriers. When I say few barriers, for instance, I'm coming to TV3. I would have to go through your checkpoint. And then there's a security man at your reception area.
So that's a second barrier.
Oh, exactly. When you go to the police station, what do? Your first encounter is to encounter the counter NCOs. Those who write your statement. Those are the people you encounter. And usually these days, I know most of our armories. I'm not putting fear into anybody. But you see, the previous administration, I'm not trying to, politicize it. I know my friends in the NDC will take me on for what I'm saying. But the truth is that not much was put into, some of these things. I'm being very candid. And so I am hoping, I wish the vice president, who is the, chairman of the police council, I wish him well. I wish that he would recover and come back quickly, because we are in trouble. The Ghana Police Service is ill-equipped. He's the chairman of the Ghana Police Council, and I'm expecting that, the IGP and his transformation team, instead of going around with a, plate or whatever they call it, collecting tokens for reforming the police service, we rather would put in money. Go to Britain, go to America. In this country, we are lawbreakers. Any country that is democratic and people break the law, you benefit from lawbreakers.
Right, Mr.
Which we are not doing.
We'll be continuing the discussions, but let me quickly run us through the police statement in which they identified the 7 suspects who have escaped after the armed attack at the Kwabena police station. In the process, we're told in that statement issued by the police that one officer who sustained gunshot wounds died at the 37 military hospital. We've told you that already. And so the names and nationalities and ages of the suspects on the run are as follows. We'll be pretty much showing you their photographs also along the line. You can see them. One is Dixon Ofori, who is a Ghanaian, who is 24 years old, and Chubizo Akwabo, who is a Nigerian, is 34 years old, and Adam Roxon is a Ghanaian, is 32 years old, and Prince Osei is a Ghanaian also, is 27 years old, and Emmanuel Kote, K-O-T-E-Y, is a Ghanaian also, is 21 years, and Kofi Dakun, who is a Ghanaian, who is 21 years old as well, and Atakwejo, who is a Ghanaian, is 20 years old. The police says that it has commenced investigations into this armed attack, and it requires the help of every Ghanaian. If you have information, you can dial the police hotline 191 and the MTN Vodafone toll-free line 1855, or you can call 0302 773695 or 0302 787373 for information. Share the information with the police service. The numbers again: 0302 773695, 0302 787373. And as usual, you can dial the emergency line 191 or the toll-free Vodafone MTN line 18555. So that's a statement from the police service. Let's get back to our discussion, and I'll come to you, Dr. Ali Dusedu. I know that you might not be versed in the security nuances of all of this, but as a country, we've been seeing the development of lawlessness growing from the political grassroots. And as much as we don't want to politicize this, we cannot also deny the fact that political vigilantism has encouraged emboldened thugs and emboldened criminals over the years. I mean, it didn't start from yesterday. The fight against Galamsey, the clump against the herdsmen, nomadic herdsmen who are on the rampage, destroying farms, all stare us in the face. And it's been like that for years. Do you get the feeling that we, the governance structures of this country, the political elites of this country, are just sitting back and watching and have no clue how to solve this from the political standpoint?
I wouldn't say they're just sitting down and they have no clue. But sometimes security issues are very vexed. They are usually vexed issues, and they come in a very complex form. You see, one major difference between a state and then any other political entity is the fact that the state has the monopoly and the use of force. If any other institution or individual or group of people other than the state can monopolize and use violence to achieve what they want, then the very core existence of the state is in danger. That is what we are witnessing now. Besides the state, we now have individuals, groups, and people who control guns, and they can use it to achieve every aim and objective that they want to achieve. That means that they are now in serious competition with the state for survival. And once you allow this to fester, this very security, existential security of the state is in danger.
So the governing elites are allowing this to fester. I mean, I'm trying to I responsibility and
I understand.
Should take the blame.
We will look at state institutions and the leadership as one of the reasons, but we're also looking at the ability of individuals within the state to be able to acquire small arms and light weapons and be able to use them to achieve what they want to achieve. So there are two extreme ends to this particular issue. So the first has to do with what? The sovereignty of the state, protecting the territorial sovereignty of the state. The second aspect of security that is tied to this is the whole concept of what? Human security, personal security, the ability to be able to live free of fear and of want. The community that you live, people within the community should live free of fear and free of want. What we are gradually realizing is that the ability to control the first, that is the monopoly of the use of violence, is now making it very difficult for individuals and communities to live in peace. So what I am thinking is that state institutions have a huge responsibility to play, but also political leadership as well. My colleagues have already said a lot about it. That is training, lack of legislations, people knowing very well that I can do things and walk away with it. Political vigilantism and all those things that you have mentioned, it all has an aspect to do with what? Free of want, and then free of what? Fear. People want to raise, build an economy, achieve sustenance. So in the course of this, maybe they move with their cattle into another person's farm, and then that is a pure economic clash, but it has an implication on security and a whole lot of things. So what we want to do moving forward is that state institutions should not only create laws, but they should empower institutions to be able to exact pound of flesh whenever these laws are breached. If people know that I can do this and go away with it, then they'll continue to do it. The other has to do with the fact that leadership has to be very bold in most of these instances. Most of the things that we are talking about, whether it has to do with this herdsman farmer clash, it has to do with political vigilantism, most often than not, politicians stand to benefit in a way from these particular processes. And sometimes you don't bite the finger that feeds you. So what happens is that they end up telling them, they know that, oh, if I do this, I'm going to go away with it. Or if they arrest me within the next 5 or 10 or 20 minutes, somebody will make a call and then I'll go out of it. So once people know that the only safest way you can commit a crime and go away with it is to attach politics to it, then people begin to provide that element of support that politicians need so that they can do things and then go away with it. So we have to start from the word go, our leadership styles, resourcing state, enacting laws, and making sure that the laws work. Because if you have a law and there's no enforcement mechanism for the laws, then there's no need having a law. By having an enforcement mechanism means that only the state should be able to use force and violence in all these things to do it. So if I know that, oh, the state is coming, they have only AK-47, I have a more sophisticated weapon, then I'd rather face them than flee. So the whole, it's a whole down thing, from leadership to state institutions, to infrastructure, to capacity building, to a whole lot of complex whole. So if you look at all these things, then no answers. And then the economic implication, all those things, you think that you have to have a bite at a time rather than trying to take everything once.
Have it a bite at a time. Mr. Kuting, the statistics are not good. A survey in 2014 estimated that at least 2.3 million people have unregistered arms in Ghana. We also know that the ECOWAS transhuman protocol permits people to move back and forth. Earlier we were having a discussion with Mr. Adam Bona about an unregistered Abuja vehicle and the criminality on the road and all of that. Do you get the feeling that our pursuit of ECOWAS protocol laws and our inability to also deal decisively with unregistered arms problem, Dr. Ali Dusaidi talks about biting the hand that feeds you. Perhaps politicians should be beginning to bite the votes, the people that vote for them and that promote violence. Where do we draw the line?
Well, if you look at the ECOWAS protocol, to be very honest on the small arms we were talking about, it's not the problem at all, but it's the enforcement. Because if you look at Ghana today, our borders are not properly manned. And I watched a BBC documentary on the Togo border when one of the custom and immigration officer was interviewed over someone who was carrying arm, and they let the person go while he was not arrested. And the response was that, hey, for this one, we know him every day. He passes here if we want to arrest him. We'll arrest him. So you see the mindset. It's just how we police our borders and then put structures in place to be able to stem out these illicit arms in the system. 2.3 million is so staggering. And as compared to 6,000 AK-47 that the whole country has for our police service. So if there was to be any insurgency, as we talk now, you can imagine the state inability to confront some of this.
So you think the state should be acquiring more arms for the police service, or retrieve the ones in the system wrongly in circulation?
I think we should look at a mechanism in retrieving the ones in circulation. We can use arms amnesty like we did some time ago, and it yielded so much results. You give them ultimatum and make sure that after the elapsement of the arms amnesty, the period you given, you make sure you enforce it. Sometimes you can use intelligence and take people by surprise.
We keep coming back to the same problem, you know, intelligence.
So it's intelligence. And you see, another thing is the state. You see, my brother was talking and something came to mind, and I've mentioned it some time ago. It calls to question, right, the protective theory of democracy. The state basically is failing us all in all of this. What are the dividends in democracy? It's peace, security, and personal safety. Do we have any of these three? No. So if we reduce democracy merely to the mantra of elections and changing government without looking at the ingredients that will put its sustainability, then we are not doing anything. So I think that moving forward as a country, we should look at how we can stand and get people to give up on these illicit arms in circulation. If we are not able to restrict these arms, we can do anything in Ghana and put all the mechanisms in place. These criminals will still have access to this arm. Yesterday, what happened in Kwabenya? They had AK-47. And these are very, very little weapons. And if you look at the UN Convention on Arms, it's only the state that is mandated to hold these arms. But yet again, we have these arms in the hands of criminals, and nothing is being done about it. And I think that I don't want to sound an alarmist, and I don't want to sound political, but the government, and when I talk about the government, we are talking today because there's a particular government in place. So they'll have to receive the bashing. The Minister of Interior, that this responsibility lies, should come up with some mechanism and adore it so that Ghanaians can contribute to it, how they plan to restrict these illicit arms. Otherwise, we are not safe as a country.
Ms. Adamboda, do you think that there are trends of national security threats our institutions are failing to see, and what are these?
I mean, thank you very much, and once again, good afternoon. You know, there are so many. I mean, there are so many. He did mention, you know, the porous nature
Of the borders.
Of the borders. Go to the, what do you call it, the seaports. I mean, containers are coming in. Some of them are being scanned, some are now scanned, and we have virtually, you know, arms coming in into this country every day, you know, every week, every year, every month. We have the nomadic herdsmen, I mean, because of this ECOWAS, the thing we call the ECOWAS protocol, that allows, you know, them to bring their cattle to graze and do whatever they have to do and go. And you remember...
You don't see any problem with the protocol?
I have a big problem with the protocol, because the truth is that ECOWAS, as you know,
an umbrella
body, has failed the citizens of ECOWAS.
How? By not enforcing specific aspects of the protocol?
Exactly. Not enforcing. Because then you go to, let's say, I mean, recently I was in Nigeria, and I mean, some of the states I visited, traffic lights don't work. And so you have Nigerian registered you know, vehicles here
running through traffic.
Who ran through. When, on my way, when I got to Silver Star, a Nigerian driver stops. He's used a wrong lane, and he comes out, and then he wanted to do some dodgy thing. And I told him, you know, I'm going to arrest you. I'm going to invoke that citizen's arrest. And so you've got to go to 37 and turn around. And he did that. And so what it means is that you, I mean, coming back to these herdsmen, they come in, and we haven't put in. The policies are there, but enforcement is a problem. And so they come in protecting their animals, and sometimes they come in with guns and ammunitions.
Heavily armed, actually.
Heavily armed. Heavily armed. And when they come in, sometimes they sell some of these animals and they walk them back again to wherever they are coming from. And on the way, they sell some of these arms, you know, to our indigents. We have, you know, sons and daughters and brothers and sisters who have migrated from, you know, Ghana to neighboring, like, you know, Libya and Syria and the other countries. And these people, you know, when some of them had to be repatriated back to Ghana, they arrived as if it's any one of us who had on his own volition. I mean, I've gone to, let's say, I've gone to the US and I've come back, and they go through and there's nothing. These people, some of them are security threat. There was no debriefing. These people were not taken into any room for questioning. When you went there, there was nothing of a sort. So these people are here, and every day we have some of them going and some of them coming in. And so you see, national security, and you know, the bus still moves and stops with the leadership of this country. It moves and stops with them. And I'm saying this because, first of all, we have a police service. We have, I mean, as for the military, somehow they've managed to, you know, internally generate some funds. But the rest of the other agencies, the, you know, immigration, the prisons,
BNI.
They don't have anything. And my brother, my colleague did mention, what do you call it, the Ministry of the Interior. The Ministry of Interior cannot do anything if budgetary allocation to these various institutions are slashed in favor of the bread and butter issues. And that is what is going on. The last, you know, the last budget that was read in Parliament, if you look at the highlights, security and safety was never mentioned. I'm sure you know the highlights. When the Honorable Minister went to Parliament to go and read the budget, the highlights, he didn't mention security and safety. Some of us mentioned it. I mean, they apologized and said it was an oversight. But the truth is that it tells you how our policymakers are taking us for a ride. If for a whole country, we have just the whole police service, about 32,000, they have just 6,000. It means that you have about 6 police officers to an AK-47. Are you aware that most of these police officers are sitting today, as we speak, are sitting in front of banks? It makes it then impossible, if I went to a police station to go and report robbery. Usually what they do, they have to call for the national patrols. A national patrol, usually they are armed. But you go to a police station, they might not have what is required of them to do what they have to do. And so you see, we've got to confront our leaders. We've got to let them know that the bread and butter issues are important, but then just like we have the issues in Agogo, if security and safety is not there, we cannot farm, we cannot go to school, I mean, people can't go to work, and the country is gradually going to grind to a halt. And so I would wish that we inform them. I mean, let me put in this. I'm sure you are aware that the current IGP has the transformation agenda. And the transformation agenda, I haven't seen a budget from the policymakers. I haven't seen a budget from the policymakers. And I'm thinking, if you go there, it's brilliant. But most of the things are from donors and the rest. You cannot run a transformation. You want to refurbish TV 3. You walk around, you can't go and be begging other people to come and help you refurbish. And so what I'm saying is that I would have wished that the vice president, some time ago when he went to China, he said they were coming to give us some money. $1 billion of that money, dollars, should be given to these people. I have done some work on it, written some, you know, $1 billion of that money, US dollars,
so we need to equip the security agencies.
That you give them 10 years and say, we need to recover this money. When I break the law, let me pay 100 cedis for jumping traffic.
Right. Adam,
you know?
Adam Bona, Mr. Emmanuel Kuting, and Dr. Ali Duseido are my guests on Agenda. And a few days ago, I did mention to you that some criminals were arrested, suspected criminals were picked up when grenades were found on them. It raised a lot of questions about our country's preparedness for anti-terrorism. What would it take to enhance our infrastructure to enable us fight terrorism, which appears to be the global trend? We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll wrap up these discussions and then also figure out what to do to equip our security agencies. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Agenda, and we're discussing safeguarding our national security. There have been a series of security threats and trends developing our country, from the attack on Kwabenya police station to the proliferation of small arms, the herdsmen crisis in Agogo Santiachim, the fight against illegal mining, which sometimes gets violent, people are killed, and all of that. These are raising critical questions which we're discussing this afternoon. So let's get back to the studio, and Dr. Ali Duseido, I want to get to you. Everyone, the security aspects are talking about equipping the security agencies. They're talking about ensuring that the police have what it takes to work. Do you get the feeling that political rhetoric is making it difficult to address the issues head on?
I think it may be one of them, but there may be other critical factors. I'll come back to that. But I think one of the most crucial threats that we face in this country is not enforcing the law. One, if we are able to enforce the law, there will be general peace and security. Once there is just complete, not near complete security and peace, I wouldn't see the need to go and buy a gun. If you know that the security can protect you, everybody obey by the law, you wouldn't, even if you put out your house, you even need a fence wall, not to talk of a wall and electronic fencing and all this, because people think that I am seriously exposed. The law is not, people are not obeying, people are not law obedient, the security forces are not doing so well. So the issue is that I will have to take my own security into my own hands. If I'm doing business and I believe that the police can protect me, nobody will stop me and then take what belongs to me, why will I need a gun for protection? So even if you source these security people, I'm not saying it's one of the key issues. If you don't source them, they can't fight crime. But even if you source them and they don't enforce the law, they don't make sure people obey the law, they can be sourced by people who go on committing crimes that they're supposed to commit. And when people commit crimes and you know that you have yourself to protect, then what will happen? So generally speaking, I'm thinking that first of all, we have to make sure that we enforce the laws. And then once we enforce the laws, we are able to achieve that element of near peace and complete security. Once we have security, then people wouldn't see the need to buy illegal arms or whatever it is, because they know that the police are well resourced. The police will make sure that the law works. When you beat the law, they will come after you. So if there's enforcement mechanisms and a little bit of deterrence, people will definitely live according to the laws. And once we have that, we're moving completely towards a near peace. And once we have a near peace, people think that, oh, the law enforcement agencies, our security, the state have my back.
But this near peace, do you get the impression it is possible, looking at our current political dispensation and how things are done? I mean, I mentioned political rhetoric. I'll tie it in with the next discussion with Mr. Kotin. Yeah. But do you think
you can never have a complete peace anywhere? It's not possible. Even in the U.S., Britain, where the ability are well, their security agencies are well resourced, that's even where you have more crimes than we have here. But I'm also thinking that in those areas, even if you have to commit some of these crimes, you have to do it in the hiding, because you know that, and you have to flee because they will come after you and they will definitely get you. So that one is a serious deterrence enough. But here people know that if I do this, give them 2-3 days, they will forget about it, or even if they get me, I'm going to go out and all those things. One, when politicians are campaigning to win elections, they make doable promises, but they also make winnable promises.
I like that.
It is left with the citizens to be able to determine that what this man is saying is something he can do. What this man is saying is something that will just entice me to vote for him. So the first decision lies on we, the citizens who vote, so that you can make an informed decision, a decision that can put a leader on his toes. Once leaders get to know, politicians get to know that Ghanaian voters are gullible, they will say anything and win elections. Then when they are getting to the last term of their office, they will quickly start something in relation to what they have said. They say, we need more time to be able to finish what we have started. You give them that more time, they will abandon what they have told you and do other things. So what we can only hold them to account, what they say and what they do.
And we must continue.
Once we leave them, they will forever take us for granted. So I think the ball starts with we, the voter population, to know that if somebody say A, B, C, D, is he just saying it, or he's going to do them? And you can assess that. And once they are not able to do it, you don't give them the chance to make similar promises and go away with it. So we have to hold them to account. As for, there are sometimes politicians will always, not all of them, but some of them will say a lot of things that they know they won't do, but that will please the people and get them elected.
Get them elected. Mr. Emmanuel Kotin, I spoke about political rhetoric. Yeah. What I had in mind was the Gitmo 2 when it started. Both sides of the divide said quite a lot of things about it. I mean, at the end of the day, the two former detainees of Guantanamo Bay, their term expired. They're still in Ghana. In Ghana. Yeah. Those arrested with grenades. Yeah. We don't know what's happening. Whether there is, like the IGP said, investigations to link that to any terror group. You think that we're just talking as a country?
Well, thank you. In fact, I think that as a country, I will reluctantly agree with you that we talk a lot, but we do few. And we criticize a lot as well, but we don't avail ourselves to nation building. That is why, precisely like my brother said, when politicians are campaigning for elections, they make promises that they can do and winnable promises as well. But you see, we only have credible people with the best brain to resolve our problems when they are in opposition. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. I do. Look, MPP have very wonderful ideas to transform even this country under 1 year. Here we are still doing. 8 years ago, NDC had the best ideas to transform Ghana. After 8 years, nothing. They get more too, my brother. When they came in here, you recall, we as an organization brought a press release to say that they didn't pose any threats to this country. And indeed, if we had come together as a country, look at the merit and the merit of the two in this country, I don't think we would have been where we are today.
And where are we today?
We are breaking our very constitution we are supposed to be protecting. And the president swore an oath to protect the constitution of this country.
Mr. Kutin, I'll have you hold, talking about the president, so that we can quickly get on and listen to the president make a comment on the Gitmo 2. We'll come back and continue with Mr. Kutin and discuss the implications.
Gitmo detainees, the period is up. A decision has to be made and that decision is under active. We need to be able to say something to the Parliament when it resumes, because the period under which the agreement was brought has come to an end. We have to decide whether or not we're going to grant them permission to stay, whether we're going to make arrangements for them to go somewhere else. All those things are being actively examined as we sit. But I'm fully aware that a decision on them has to be made, and it cannot be made in 6 months or 5 months. It has to be made now.
Right, so that's President Nana Akufo-Addo. So, Mr. Cotton, yes. President Nana Akufo-Addo simply says the buck stops with Parliament. That should be it, right?
Well, if the buck stops with Parliament, it is whose duty to get the processes to Parliament? Are you telling me that if you know this is the law, and you are time-bound by the law, you wait to the expiration of the time before you act? We are clearly breaking our very constitution we swore to protect. And I think it's an indictment of we as Ghanaians. We are making mockery out of ourselves. Because look at what happened. I believe that our judiciary should be seen to be proactive in passing judgment, whether the plaintiff or the defendant's government is in power or otherwise. You see the ruling, an MPP member went to court and subsequently got a ruling over the status of the 2 Gitmo detainees. What prevented that individual from going to court when his government was not in power? So that is why people are beginning to view the judiciary in a political lens. And that is not good for our democracy at all. And I also believe that we didn't share information then. I had mentioned this here some time ago that governance is a continuous process. And I think this government should learn from the mistakes of the NDC.
Right, Mr. Cotton, I will have to continue, shift the discussion. But Dr. Ali said, Mr. Bona, you have to wrap up with us. But Dr. Ali said, the Gitmo, political decisions need to be made. We need to position ourselves in the Committee of Nations to be law-abiding. Do you think we're mixing up what we should do to protect our country and what we should do to give us a good posturing in the global Committee of Nations?
I think no country, especially in the current contemporary world, no country can live alone in isolation. But the first thing every chief of staff, every commander-in-chief swears is to protect your citizens and your state. Why is the U.S. shifting the Gitmo 2 guys to Ghana? Because it was a political promise. Do you understand? And that promise was meant at what? Protecting U.S. citizens from fundamentalist groups.
So what is protecting Ghana's interests?
So I am thinking, I can't say that for sure, but I think maybe there was some benefit that the country got by accepting, which we don't know, by accepting this. Other than that, I don't think we just accept them. But my problem is the over-politicization of every national issue in this country. If you look at the previous administration, when this thing happened, a whole lot of civil society groups came out, a whole lot of noise were made about how unsafe these people are and all those things. Now, all these groups have kept quiet. The same people are in this country. They no longer pose existential threat to the country. So I think once we are able, it's very difficult Governance is politics, but there are certain key issues that you have to depoliticize it and look at the merits, its contribution and benefit to the country.
And this is one of
them. And I think this is one of them, because especially where it has to do with what? The safety of citizens of this country. We have to actually move away from that political entrenchment and then look at national interests.
Right. Mr. Adam Bona, when I started, I made reference to the armed men storming the Intercontinental Hotel in Kabul, Afghanistan, and killing 6 people using grenade. They were moving from floor to floor. I intentionally made reference to that because of the grenade situation we had in Ghana ourselves. So as we discussed the Gitmo, we're now looking at what the grenade discussion where some men were arrested with grenades and what is happening on the global front. Do you think the threat of terrorism is closer to us than we have been thinking, and that perhaps our state institutions and security agencies are not acting appropriately?
Thank you very much. Well, the issue of terrorism being closer to us is actually with us. I mean, if what happened at Kwabenya and a uniformed police officer who is on the beat was shot, would not be,
terrorizing.
These are daring, people who took a whole police station, took it over for that few. So one would want to say it is with us. And with coming, back to the Getmo too. When they came, I said, well, we have accepted to have them in, and so it is okay. But I think they have, overlived or outlived their stay. Their term to live in this country has expired. We should send them away. That is my candid opinion. I'm saying this because you realize that since...
Send them away to where?
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. They are not, they are not citizens of Ghana, right? Could this be, I heard my colleague Kotin say, was it Dr. Ali Dusedu say, we might have benefited. Could the benefit have been one of the insult we've just recently gotten from the U.S., the current U.S. president? I'm being...
Using explicit derogatory words.
Could that be one of the benefit? And so I would say, say we should send them away. And the reason being that if you look at how much airtime we have given to this Gitmo 2, it is needless. We could have used this airtime you guys are spending discussing them. Let's send them away. And I'm saying this because if anything happens in this country, we are going to go back and say, could these people, their presence here, have led to A, B, C, D? And so I would want that we take our own destiny into our own hands, deal with it the way we should deal with it. And coming back to this grenade issue, are you also aware, I'm making some categorical statements here, are you also aware that over, internationally, the various police forces and the various police services now have the ballistic unit? We still don't have a ballistic unit within the Ghana Police Service. We don't have it. And the ballistic unit, the unit that arrested these guys with I think it's at, what do you call it, which police station? Odoko Police Station. Our police stations, if we are talking about 6,000 guns for all the police stations in Ghana, then it tells you that for them to have gone to retrieve these grenades, these are deadly weapons. They left them under some tree. Do you understand me? And so it meant that within that immediate vicinity, this could have caused a lot of, killed a lot of people or done a lot of things to people. And so I would urge that, I think 2015, the former president created the anti-terror desk. Right. But the anti-terror desk was ill-equipped.
Ms. Adam Bona, I think our time has run out. And gentlemen, I'm grateful for your time. Adam Bona, Mr. Emmanuel Koting, and Dr. Ali Seidu. And to you who watched us, thank you very much for making time. You can continue engaging us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/TV3GH. Thanks for making time for Agenda. Good evening.